The Binding of Isaac is a game that everyone must try, and if you've played it, then you most likely already know why it's so great. While the reason that players play this game differs from person to person, there is no denying that when new content drops, I personally will sink hundreds of hours into the game once again. With the release of Repetence DLC sometime in the near future, I thought now would be the best time to talk about why I think everyone needs to try this game out. While I may not be on the same level as Northern Line or Pentahybrid, I have still sunk almost 1,000 hours into this game, and that's across multiple versions and platforms. So without wasting any more time, let's first look at where this all began. After success with his previous game, the infamous Super Meat Boy, the game developer Edmund McMillen no longer felt like he needed to worry so much about taking a risk. He felt like he could somewhat evolve on Super Meat Boy's concept, and that he did. The idea they came up with was a roguelike dungeon crawler that would showcase his thoughts on religion. They started making the layout for the dungeons. Random rooms were made for each floor with different layouts, monsters were added in as the player's main threat, and hundreds of unique items were placed into the game. He wanted the game to have the feeling of progression, so he made sure that every floor contained at least 2 items, one from the item room and the other being dropped from the bosses. These items would change many aspects of the game, from your stats to your tiers to the look of your character and much more. The enemies also ramped up along with the player. As you progress through the floors of the dungeon, you would come up against enemies who had more health, dealt more damage, and overall were more of a threat to you. Obviously they wanted to keep people playing, and they'd done this through additional content. After completing the main game, you would get more bosses and more levels to progress through. You could also choose from a set of 4 characters that were based off the main classes from Dungeons and Dragons, these being the Fighter, Thief, Cleric and Wizard. Now with all that being said, you may be wondering where his views on religion come in. Well. Let me tell you about the game's story. This is probably the main reason as to why the game is rated M. The religious tone comes from his own experiences with religion, and he wanted to show how something like obsessing over religion can install harmful feelings into people. The plot is loosely based off the Bible story of the same name, go figure. You can see all this unfolding in the opening sequence whenever you start up the game, but for the people who have never seen it, let me give you a quick little rundown. So Isaac is a small child who lives at home with his mother. One day his mother's watching TV, she hears a voice from above and it tells her that Isaac is corrupt and the only way to save him is to take everything away.
Your son has become corrupted by sin. He needs to be saved. I will do my best to save him, my lord, Isaac's mother replied, rushing into Isaac's room, removing all that was evil from his life.
The voice speaks again after that, saying he must be cut off from all evil, so she locks Isaac away in his room. After that, the voice speaks one last time and tells her that she has done well, but to show her true devotion, she must sacrifice her son.
One last time, Isaac's mom heard the voice of God calling to her. You've done as I've asked, but I still question your devotion to me. To prove your faith, I will ask one more thing of you. Yes, Lord, anything, Isaac's mother begged. To prove your love and devotion, I require a sacrifice. Your son, Isaac, will be this sacrifice. Go into his room and end his life as an offering to me to prove you love me above all else.
She grabs a knife and walks over to his room. Isaac, watching through a large crack in the door, begins to panic and starts looking for a way out. Quickly under his rug he finds a trapdoor which he jumps right down as his mother breaks through with knife in hand. You see more of this story as you progress and unlock more of the game. During the loading screens you watch as Isaac curls up into a ball crying. Each time you see different thoughts of his, ranging from embarrassing moments in his past to how he thinks he's gonna die. Initially the game had 13 endings which all occur after a major boss fight. The final 3 are unlocked after getting every other ending, and they all imply that Isaac climbed into a chest and suffocated. However, many more endings were introduced with future DLC, but I'll get into that later. As you can tell, this game is a lot darker than others, and they knew that making this game could potentially end their careers, but at least they would get McMillen's point across. Now that they knew everything they wanted to do, they set out on making it. Within a few weeks they had a working prototype written in Adobe Flash's ActionScript 2. They also both mutually agreed that at this point they would see the project through and release it on Steam, not expecting much in terms of sales. Well, safe to say that they would have been surprised when the game sold over 2 million copies, and this was all the way back in 2013. From prototype to completion, the game took a whole 3 months, and they slapped it on Steam right away. As they had low sales expectations, they didn't worry about the game being censored or having to get a rating. The game also launched without playtesters, as it would take forever for the users to go through all the possible synergies. Since they were releasing the game through Steam, they would be able to sort out any problems themselves and update the game for free. If they released it on console, it would be much harder and cost them a lot more money. A demo of the game was released on Newsgrounds a few weeks after. I first found out about the game here, and it was back when Flash games were cool and the only thing you could actually do during ICT. Anyway, in late September 2011, McMillen's little passion project was released. And man, I wish I could have seen his face when the thing blew right up. The game overall was greeted with positive reviews, and during the first few months he was making a couple hundred sales a day, but after YouTube took over and the Let's Plays began, it really kicked off. On top of this, the game drew interest from mod creators who wanted to add their own twist onto the game. The mod scene has played a huge part in the success of this game, and is one of the main reasons as to why people still play it to this day. Just less than a year after release, fans got Wrath of the Lamb DLC. Now when you think of adding DLC, you probably think about adding a couple of hours worth of gameplay, maybe another level, a couple new weapons. Well, that's not what they got here. Instead they got an expansion which added a whole 70% more content to the game. 70 bloody %. 10 new bosses, 40 new unlocks, 2 new endings, and over 100 new items and additional levels. It also was when a huge new feature was added in the form of trinkets. These were passive held items that added a wide range of effects to your character, but only when you had the item on you. After that he wanted to add another expansion, but quickly found out that he was held back by the limit of Flash at this point. After the surprise success of the game, McMillen was approached by Nicholas, an American game developing company, who wanted to port the game to consoles. He expressed how it would require a lot of work, but after talking and agreeing on some terms, he decided to go ahead with the deal and began working on the Binding of Isaac Rebirth, an improved version of the title which was released in 2014. Now, I've already gone on way too long about the development, so I'll keep this brief. Rebirth was an overall improved version of the original game, with many new characters, items, bosses, floors, layouts, endings and graphics. The main change being the fact that you could now play this across multiple consoles, including some handhelds. In 2015 the first content pack was released named Afterbirth. We really are getting some nice titles here. Please don't look at any images when searching the game up, you will not get what you're looking for, trust me. Afterbirth added even more chapters, characters, items, etc. The main new addition being this all new wave based greed mode. The second content pack, creatively named Afterbirth Plus, was released in 2017. This content pack was arguably the most influential, as it made it so much easier to create but also play mods for the game. You could get them straight through Steam now instead of having to follow a 10-minute tutorial every time you wanted to try out a new mod. The third and final expansion will be the soon to be released Repetence. Since its announcement over a year ago, we've been getting little bits of details and information here and there. Also recently at PAX West, we saw a demo which showcased over 30 minutes of gameplay. Now there you have it. Whether you have played The Binding of Isaac or not, you should have an understanding of the game. You still may be thinking, why the hell are you acting like this game is the best thing ever? It just seems disturbing. Well yeah, that it is. But trust me, it's so much more. Now that you have seen the game from start to finish, let's have a look at what makes The Binding of Isaac so brilliant. Like I mentioned earlier, I first played this game back in 2013 when I found it on Newgrounds. My experience was familiar to everyone else's. What I meant by this is that I fell in love with the game due to its similarities with the old top-down Zelda titles. It immediately makes you feel like you are familiar with the game, and right off the bat it drew me in. One major aspect that differed from Zelda though was the morbid and creepy tone the game gave me. The combination of this game, being 12 and liking creepypastas a little too much made me create a Steam account just to get the full game. Since then, I've sunk over 1,000 hours, got all the DLCs and played way too many mods and even achieved Platinum God. The reason I'm mentioning this is because I'm not the only one who has spent so much time on this game. Just taking a look at the community is still alive and kicking after so many years. This shows that other people have done the exact same thing as me. You've probably only got this far into the video because you've had a similar experience as well. One reason that this game appeals to so many people is its overall simplicity. Now when I say that, don't get me confused by saying this game is easy. It is far from that. The controls don't require you to press 15 keys whilst doing a 180 with your mouse. It's just the arrow keys, WASD and the spacebar. The art style is also unique in the fact that it looks like an arcade game while it still is in HD and runnable at 60 frames per second. Having said that, the game is not hard to run. People say you can run Counter-Strike on a potato. Well, if that's true, then you could probably run this on a single chip. Another reason is probably because of how shocking and widely strange this game can be. You play as a little boy who uses his tears as weapons to escape from his insane mother whilst fighting grotesque monsters and even the devil himself. The vibe that this game emits is something which you cannot get from a film or book. Also, with every item that you pick up, the look of Isaac changes in some way, and some of the combinations are outright terrifying. I do love seeing what Isaac will end up looking like at the end of a run though. However, the main reason I play this game so much is down to one thing which, now that I think about, is a mix of everything, but it's the replayability. A game needs to keep its players coming back time and time again, and The Binding of Isaac has that locked right down. When you start the game up for the first time, everything is locked. You have a small item pool, a small amount of enemies, a small amount of floors and a small amount of characters. As you progress, you unlock more and more things ranging from challenges to bosses to even entire new floors. You could easily go through hundreds of runs and not see the same item again due to the fact that there's over 430 unique items. As you progress through the game, you start to realise that what you think is the end is far from the end. There are also so many different combinations of items that play into each other that it is insane. When I think about how creative you have to be to make all these items mash and work together, my brain starts to hurt, and I start to feel glad that I'm not the one making this game. Even if you somehow get bored of the base game, you can still go through the challenges, try speedruns, or download thousands of the mods. Some of these mods are so good that they could be entire games in themselves, and I really do respect the people who create them. This is why I absolutely love The Binding of Isaac, and is also why I believe this game is so great. I can't wait to see all the new items, floors, characters, bosses, synergies, trinkets, enemies, styles, and whatever the hell is coming out. While I'm sad that Edmund McMillen has confirmed that it will be the last DLC for the game, I do believe that the game will probably return in some sort of form in the future. If you haven't tried this game out, then you really need to. If you don't, then you'll be missing out on one of the most unique and fun experiences out there. Go try it out. I can't stress this enough. You will enjoy it. Thanks for watching. If you have played The Binding of Isaac, let me know if you enjoyed it and why. I'll do my best to reply. For now though, I'm out. I'll see you all next time.